Well, good afternoon, everybody. Um, there's nothing that beats being the immediate right after lunch entertainment and speaking slot. I want to say it's a real honor and privilege to be here. Rakhi Kumar, I'm pleased to have us join us. Maybe you might just want to give a few words of introduction on what your role is at State Street.
Hi, so I head up our asset stewardship program, which in a very boring terms is proxy voting and engagement with companies. But really what we do is we monitor companies and engage with them on long-term issues such as environmental sustainability and governance related issues and to ensure that they're mitigating risk within our portfolios.
Excellent. So what we want to do here is, Fearless Girl's been in the news a lot, and she's been in the news a lot lately. And I think this is a great opportunity to really surface some of the critical issues that we as an organization feel very strongly about in terms of our values and beliefs, and why we're firmly committed to the whole topic of gender diversity, in particular recognizing the power of women in leadership, because it's not just a political statement, it really is about performance. And we're going to get into some of that discussion. I think a little bit of background and context. State Street Global Advisors is the third largest asset manager in the world, and we're based here in Boston. We have offices in over 27 countries, but we're kind of a brand that few people know very little about. They just know that we're big, we're a big index giant, and that's about it. And we sought to really start to shift that perception with this particular campaign. But there's a foundation to this campaign that a lot of people don't know about. We have new leadership within State Street Global Advisors within the last 2 years, a new CEO. There's been a number of new senior leaders brought in, including myself. And a mission statement was crafted almost a year ago. And our mission is this: to invest responsibly to enable economic prosperity and social progress. And that's a pretty tall order, and it's a very big statement to make in terms of a mission, as many of you can appreciate. There's a lot of values embedded in that mission statement. The other aspiration of the organization is to be the first call for every institutional investor and financial intermediary. And right now, we're seen as a brand that has a very narrow aperture, and we believe that there's a lot more that people need to understand about who we are and the way we invest and why we invest the way we do. And we believe that if that story can be appropriately told and understood, we're going to be able to open the aperture in terms of the type of financial solutions and investments that people will want to talk to us about. So then the big challenge, and this is the big issue, I think, for brands right now. And a lot of you who work in advertising here, I think, have this debate with your clients. Are you going to lead, or are you going to fit in? And there's some real repercussions about leading versus fitting in, as we've seen. And what I want to do is hand over to Rakhi for a moment. And before we get into why we chose to lead, I think it's important that you understand, what were we leading with? What was the genesis for Fearless Girl? What does she stand for? And how did she become a communications vehicle to explain a very complex topic in a very simple way with virtually no words? It's an experience. It's a statue. And I'd like Rakhi to talk a little bit about our asset stewardship program. And this was essentially the brief that was given to me as CMO and to my team and to our agency as to how do we take, excuse me, what Rakhi's going to discuss and make that an emotional connection and an experience.
So yeah, so as I said, asset stewardship really is proxy voting, engagement, snoozer. But really, the way, and it used to be a compliance function, but now at least it's an investment function. But with regards to what we were trying to do is, at the end of every year, proxy season generally kicks off in April. And at the end of every year, we look to see what kind of our policy change we need to make and how do we create impact. One of the things we had heard from our clients through the years is that gender diversity was very important to them. We also saw increased evidence, research-wise, and that more women on boards actually helps financial returns, and the corporate governance of companies at these companies actually is better when there are more women. So we said, well, let's look at our portfolio and let's see how many companies don't have women. Now, we saw that the overall number was low, but we said let's define very bad as 0. So we'll call out companies that have no women on boards. How do we now communicate this policy to the 10,000 companies that we are invested in globally? And how do we let the 4,000 clients over 4,000 clients that we have globally know that we are actually reflecting what they want us to do in our asset stewardship program? So that was the challenge. How do we do this in a way where we can get the attention? So that's the brief I gave Stephen.
So, as you can tell, it's sort of an arcane topic to explain to the general public. If you are in the category, certainly you would understand it. But how do we, if we really believe in this proof point that greater gender diversity leads to greater performance, how do we then back that up and how do we tell that story? And when you take a public stand, it means opening ourselves as an organization to both all the accolades that have come with Fearless Girl, but also the criticism. And we took a stand as a leadership that if we were to wait until we were absolutely flawless before raising and leading on this critical, important issue, we would be failing our jobs on the very thing that we're talking about as asset stewards for our clients' investments around the world. And clients look to us, they look to every brand in this room, I believe, to raise issues that protect their interests and their investments and what they value. And it's not about necessarily our interests. And I think that is why, and what you'll see, has resonated with Fearless Girl. And she's become a symbol far beyond what we had originally anticipated with asset stewardship. She's become a symbol far greater than what our brand represents. So, the objective was to create global awareness for active stewardship. It was to tie right into our mission and vision around being the first call for every institutional investor and intermediary on gender diversity investing. And it was really to enable a further discussion with our clients about the ESG offerings. And I don't know how many people know what that stands for, environmental, social, and governance. It's a very big topic in investing right now. And we are thought leaders in that space, but we're not just thought leaders. We manage close to $200 billion in assets that are classified as ESG. And the key ingredients, I think, for campaigns is about you've got to have relevancy. We're going to show you just how relevant Fearless Girl has become, not just to our organization and women at large, but to the world. And you've got to have real conviction. If there's anything that you take away from our talk, we are supremely committed to this topic, irrespective of what people would say or things that people would find. We are on a journey, just like the rest of corporate America and the corporate world. And, you know, we are striving to hold and uphold the challenges and inspiration that Fearless Girl sets for us as an organization and for our clients and also for our competitors. And ultimately, you've got to have the underpinning investment philosophy, which Rocky and her team have been developing for the last several years. So we have the philosophy, we have the policies, we have the procedures, we have the voting track record that backs us up. And then we actually have the investment capabilities that underpin all of this. We offer strategies that focus on companies that actually have a greater representation of women at the senior levels, on the board levels, for the reasons that we've stated. So on March the 7th, the day before International Women's Day, this is a small group of us that are part of a bigger team. we were down, and you can see Kristen Visbal, who is right in the center of the image here. She, in white, she is the actual artist that helped shape and create the statue, and there was a tremendous amount of input that went into that. But this is the day before International Women's Day at 5:30 in the morning. This photo was taken around 7 in the morning, and you can see there were no barricades, there were no crowds. It's not what she is today, where it's a big tourist attraction. No one knew what she was about. And what really started to take hold was that there was a lead story with the Wall Street Journal that really talked about the very topic that Rocky and team do, which is our voting record against companies who have boards that do not have gender diversity at their senior or corporate board level. And that story took place at noon, and it really started, we had no paid media, so to speak, behind this entire effort. It really is an organic social conversation where we inserted ourselves as a brand into that dialogue, and it's amazing how it took off. I'm going to show a little clip about the making of the statue, and then we'll continue from there. So that shows you a little bit of the background and how she was constructed. Following her installation and that article in the Wall Street Journal, we started to see major conversations that were happening organically. In fact, across all 6 continents. We started to see people like Chelsea Clinton, Ariana Huffington, Ariana Grande, Katie Couric, all talking about Fearless Girl and what she represents and recognizing the power of women in leadership. And people started to go down to the statue, bringing young boys and young girls to have their picture taken with her. She became a real inspiration for women and young girls who actually have a lot to contribute to leadership. They have a lot to contribute to the global economy. And what you'll notice about the statue is it's not a statue of a girl raising her fist in the air in defiance. She's bold, she's confident, she's ready to jump in and contribute. And that was a very optimistic message why I believe so many people of all political persuasions flocked down to want to have their picture taken with her and use her as a symbol to inspire their young daughters and boys as to recognizing the contribution that women make to society. And this is a camcorder picture. There's a webcam, I should say, that's installed that monitors her. You can just see now the crowd started to flock down to her. It's on an ongoing basis. Within 36 hours or 48 hours, Fearless Girl had her own Wikipedia. Once again, this wasn't us writing all of this up. This just was an organic movement that started a real groundswell. And of course, there was a big petition to keep her permanent. Almost 40,000 people signed on to have Fearless Girl stay. And probably many of you don't know in this room, we only ever planned to have her there for 1 week. We had a 1-week City of New York permit. It was never intention to have her as a permanent installation. What we've seen within the first 12 weeks after installation was 4.6 billion in Twitter impressions. Over 745 million Instagram impressions just within the first 12 weeks. 1,600 broadcast segments with over 43 million in viewership. We started to see in print and digital stories, 2,400 with 140 million impressions. Our share of voice went from 7.8% from December 1 through March 3. That was our share of voice for this category within the asset management space. And you can see within 3 weeks post the installation, it jumped up to 37.4%. Once again, we did not have a big paid media underpinning this. It was all through really an organic movement. Some of the other data points, which I'll go over just quickly, we saw a 170% increase in trading volume in the gender diversity ETF that we offer, a 450% increase in the views of our gender diversity ETF page on our website, a 90% increase in our views of SSGA, State Street Global Advisors webpage, landing page just in general, and then 650% increase on State Street, our parents' corporate Twitter handle. There's been a lot of discussion about, well, what's been the value of all of this earned media. And I had given our media buying agency a task to say if I was to get all of those numbers that we talked about, 4.6 billion impressions and 2,400 print and digital articles and 1,500 broadcast articles and so forth, what would that cost if I had to have a brief with that and obtain that within 3 weeks? And they gave us a range between 27 and 38 million. There was a story written that probably some of you read by another independent body that said it was 7.8. So it's somewhere between 7.8 and $38 million, and we can debate that. The actual amount that we spent on the physical construction installation, including the little bits of social media behind it, was less than $250,000. And I want to show you a clip that was entered for the Cannes Lion submissions that I think kind of tell the story about what happened post the installation. And we were very honored that the Cannes organization awarded us 18 Cannes Lions. We won 4 Grand Prix, and one in particular is the Glass Cannes Lion Award, which was co-created with Sheryl Sandberg and the Cannes organization. So we were incredibly honored to just see the accolades that were recognized, both from what Fearless Girl represents, but also from an innovative way of communicating what is a very complex and in some places a very controversial subject. And thank you. And so she went on to win 5 Grand Clios, and this has been a very humbling experience. We've learned a lot as a marketing organization. We're on a journey, as I said, as an organization, and the ultimate reason we're doing this is not for all the accolades. I'm going to start to have Rocky make a few comments. It comes back to this, and which is, how are we starting to enact change on behalf of investors around the world in the portfolios that we manage for them, in the way we vote for more women, greater gender diversity on the leadership of those companies. And that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah, so we voted against 400 companies this proxy season for lack of gender diversity, but what was really interesting is we actually we didn't vote against 42, and 2 of them sent us letters saying we've already added a woman to the board. And I think it's just started because post a Fearless Girl, many of our peers as well as competitors have joined us in our call to action and have now announced, so $15 trillion of investment has joined us in our call to action. So we believe going forward, we will be achieving the goals that we've set out, and I think we've already brought a lot of attention to the issue.
And so I guess, what are the lessons learned? I think if you were going to take anything away, it's you got to have the right message. You've got to have the goods behind the message. Do you have to be perfect? I don't believe you do. We're not perfect. She's as much an inspiration and challenge to us. This isn't about perfection. This is about standing for what is right. I don't think there's anyone in this room who would not advocate for greater gender diversity at all levels. And this is something that brands need to start to embrace and not always wait for being absolutely perfect in every part. And I would encourage others. I do think you need to anticipate and prepare for the negative and the positive that comes with this territory. Once again, if you're going to lead, you got to decide, are you going to lead or are you going to fit in? And I'll leave it with that for any Q&A.